Welcome to another episode of Restoring Your Voice with me, your host, Pastor David. And today, I'm going to have a special guest on, Dorsey Ross of Dorsey Ross Ministries. You're going to get a chance to hear his story today, how Jesus has given him the power to overcome a disability. So don't forget to share this episode. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And so stay tuned. Welcome to the show, Restoring Your Voice. With me, your host, Pastor David. I'm going to help you use your God-given voice. I'm going to equip you for the good works of Jesus and prepare you for the return of Jesus. I'm going to do this through hitting up hot biblical topics, problem areas in the body of Christ, in the charismatic, in other areas of the body of Christ, in an attempt to help bring clarification, purity, consecration in love and patience as the Bible commands. I'm going to have special guests on that are going to equip you and edify you through their stories that give God the glory, where you'll get different viewpoints in different areas because we're all one body and we all have a piece of the puzzle to share with one another. So I look forward to you watching, listening, and interacting. All right, that's it. And now I'm going to bring to the show Dorsey Ross. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having coming on. And I believe that, your story is going to really just tell people about Jesus, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so you got something, you were born with something called Apert Syndrome.
Apert Syndrome.
Okay, right. And so I'm sure a lot of people don't know what that's about. I know I really don't know what it's about, to be honest. But so why don't you give people your background about, I read where it says, oh, they didn't give you much of a chance when you were born and everything, but hey, here you are, right?
Right.
All right.
Absolutely.
And that's what matters to me, not what the docs say. But here you are, blessing the world for Jesus. So why don't you tell people about your background then? Start there.
Yeah. Well, I was born on January 16th, 1977, with a birth defect, as you said, called Apert Syndrome, which is a birth defect of the hands and the face. And I was born, my forehead was pushed outward, my eyes and nose were pushed back in my head, and my fingers and toes were fused together. Me, I had no individual movement of them, and my skull was also fused together. I mean, I had no sore spot and no skull opening to allow the brain to grow and allow the brain to function normally. And because of this, the doctors had, spoken to my parents and told my parents about this and said, we don't think your son is going to survive. We don't think he's going to make it. And, they said the best option that we can give to you to put him into a institution and to let him be.
Hmm.
And, thankfully my parents were both people of faith and both knew and trusted in God and knew, that they just couldn't do that. They just couldn't give up on the child that God had given them. And my parents said, well, we can't sign those papers. We'll just take him home and see what will happen. And while they were at the hospital in New York City, where I was born, they heard from a nurse in the hospital that doctor at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York City was doing operations on, babies like myself. So my parents took me there. And while I was there, my parents, spoke to other doctors, and the doctors there said, well, if he has the, operation to open the skull and to allow his brain to grow and allow it to, function normally, then he'll have difficulties. He'll have to overcome and trials that he'll have to overcome, but he'll survive. And I had my first of many operations at 6 weeks of age to
Mm.
open the skull and to allow my brain to grow and allow it to function normally.
Okay. So, so what difficulties, I guess, growing up did that, or maybe not, but how was that? I guess I should say just growing up, growing up in a regular environment and all that.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, my parents treated me like they would, any other child. They allowed me to, figure out for myself what was I able to do and what was I not able to do. And, couldn't wasn't very much. For the most part, I'm able to do, almost everything that, most people are able to do. My hands are restricted. I can't put my hand all the way up, above my head because of the restrictions in my elbows and the restrictions in my shoulders. So I can't lift my hand straight up. So, for example, I can't put, I can't lift, I can't put something up on a high shelf, or I can't get something down from a high shelf. But, for the most part, I can do, pretty much anything else. I'm able to, when I was younger, I was able to play sports. I was able to
Mm.
go out and ride my bicycle, and I was able to, as I got older, I was able to drive a car, and, without any accessories, I'm able to drive a car normally. And that's probably one of the, more common questions I get nowadays is, you know, how to, if I'm driving somewhere, if I'm, speaking somewhere, they'll ask me, well, how did you get here? I'm like, well, I drove. And they're like, oh, you drive? I'm like, yeah, I drive. You know, so my
Right.
parents, they love me and they cared for me, just like Christ tells us to.
Right.
And, but on the other side of the coin, I was teased and I was made fun of and I was,
Mm.
you know, pointed at and stared at, and I was called names like, monster and freak at times,
Mm.
and probably even other names as well. And even to this day, I get, certain times and certain things get stared at and
Mm.
get called names and pointed at things of that nature. But, as I got older, I started to realize, you know, where my identity was and who I was in Christ, and that when I gave my life to Christ at the age of 13, he started to show me that, I was his masterpiece and that I was created in his image.
Right.
And that, regardless of what anybody else said, you know, he, this is who I am in Christ.
Right. And you said your parents were Bible believing, right? So
Yes.
did you guys go to church on a regular basis?
So yeah, we did. I was born and bred in the church. From the time I was born, I started going going to church on a regular basis, and my parents had gone. Even before I was born, had gone to church on a regular basis as well.
Right. And how did the church receive you? How did that interaction play out when you guys went to church?
They treated me normally. They treated me like they would anyone else. Even as I got older, I mean, there's just one instant which I can tell you about. But when I started to attend the youth group, and the youth group and the teenagers, they loved me. They treated me like they would anyone else. But there was this one instant where, as I started to get older, in my 13, 14, and I hadn't gotten an invite really to the youth group.
Hmm.
and I was in the hospital one time getting operated on, and the pastor and the youth pastor at the time came to visit me at the hospital, and my mom was then, because my mom, she always stayed with me in the hospital, and we can talk a little bit about that as well. But she was they went out into the hallway to talk, and apparently, my mom asked the youth pastor why he hadn't invited me to the youth group, and he said that he thought that I had like some type of mental issue or some type of mental deformity that I guess would affect me going to the youth group, and that hurt me and that affected me.
Hmm.
But I didn't, that didn't stop me from going to the youth group. But in my teenage years as well, I was part of a hockey league at the school that I attended from 5 years old till when I graduated at 19, because it was a school for people with disabilities.
Hmm.
So I went to that school, basically my whole, you know, education when I was younger. So on Friday night we would have the hockey league. So I wasn't able to always go to the youth group, on Friday nights. But as I said, most of the time they treated me like they would anyone else.
That's awesome. And I'd like to say hockey is awesome because it's one of my favorite sports. So
Yeah,
glad to hear you played hockey.
yeah, but it wasn't like ice hockey. It was like basically like gym floor hockey.
Right. Yeah, still one of my favorite sports. So
Yeah,
yeah. So you said your mom played a big role. Sounds like
yeah. My mom
in
and
supporting
my
you.
dad both
Okay.
did.
Yeah. Well, what did that look like? You said I know you said your mom stayed with you. Would stay with you when you were in the hospital, but
Yeah,
it sounds like they had a very very positive impact on you, and your develop. Just growing up as
right.
any child grows up. With the a parent's effect on them for good or bad. But I guess what so how did that help and equip you, for life?
Yeah, well, I think the way they helped me and the way they equipped me was the fact that you know they um you know they were always positive. They never held me back. As I said a little bit ago, they never held me back from doing what it was that I wanted to do in my life. So if I wanted to do something and I said, "Mom, Dad, I want to go and I want to try this," they said, "Okay, go and try it and see what happens." And I would go and try that specific thing. And if I couldn't do it, then I said, "Okay, this is something I can't do or I'm not able to do." And if I could do it, then, hey, I learned this is another thing that I can put on my list of things that, Dorsey can, that I would be able to do. And, they always loved me, always supported me. And as I said, in the hospital, my mom was always there for me. My mom, no matter the days of the time I had to spend in the hospital, she would be there with me. She would either, sleep on the couch or sleep on the bed next to me or sleep on the chair, next to me in my room.
That's heartwarming, honestly.
Yeah,
To say the very least, it's wow. It's extremely heartwarming that your mom was,
right,
went, extra to do that,
right,
and that is really awesome. I like how you highlighted though that you tried stuff out, right?
right.
And your parents were willing, like so it was like a okay, able versus not able.
Yeah,
It wasn't highlighted. No, you're just simply unable,
right,
or you're not able to do that, right?
yeah. And
Um,
I mean, the only thing I haven't really done yet that I want to try to do is skydiving.
okay.
I want to try at least one time try skydiving just see how that goes.
Right. I haven't tried that either yet, and me and my wife has talked about, hey, let's try that. We just haven't gotten around to it yet, but that's awesome. I like the aspirations. So clearly you're a person of who doesn't highlight to yourself what you can't do. It's more
Right.
of a, okay, now I'm able to do it, and and obviously Jesus, you said, highlighted this identity, who you are in Him. So how much? So I'm glad. I bet you that played a big, humongous role in what you're able to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because flipping 413 says, obviously, I don't want to take it out of context, but flipping 413 says, I can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. And obviously, that's in the will of God of what He has for us, and in the will of God that He wants us to do. But when it's in His will, He'll give us the strength to do what it is that we want to do, that He has for us to do. For example, growing up, I didn't do well in school.
Hmm.
I didn't do well in certain classes. Especially when I was younger in elementary school, I had to have, almost like what they do today with the homeschooling, have somebody from the school come to my home and teach me from in my house of what the kids were learning in the classroom, because I wasn't able to be there because I was out so much with my operations and with recuperating and everything. I wasn't able to be there. So growing up, I was, especially in my late teenage years, I started to wonder, what am I gonna be able to do?
Right,
What am I gonna be able to learn and to be able to do as a career or as a job? You know, I
right,
thought about doing, something with computering, or doing something with computers, and doing something with, the Coast Guard, and doing, something with the nursing, becoming a nurse at some point.
right,
And going back to the youth group thing, I started to, again, as I started to get older, I started to feel a call of God in my life to possibly become a youth pastor at some point. And because I loved speaking into the youth, I loved encouraging the youth and what they wanted to do, in their own lives. And so as graduation day came upon me, I had to have a meeting to determine what I was going to do after I graduated. And at this meeting, my high school history teacher was there, and he was my mom again was there. He was asked, do you think that Dorsey will be able to make it in college? And he said, no, I don't think that Dorsey will be able to make it
mhm,
in college. I don't think he has the ability to make it in college. And then, they asked me, they said, do you think that you'll be able to make it in college? And I don't remember hesitating, but I probably didn't. And yeah, I said, yeah, I think I can make it. And my mom was then, they asked her the same thing. Do you think that Dorsey will be able to make it in college? And she said, yeah, I think he'll be able to make it. And in August of 1996, I started to attend Queensboro Community College.
nice, nice.
And I
Clearly,
started to,
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I started to attend there to get my liberal arts degree, just to, I guess basically just to find out what college was like and see if I would be able to even handle it, for the most part.
Right. Yeah. So like I was gonna say, so much for what those doctors said. You
Yeah,
know. Yeah. So much for all the can'ts and unables and all that stuff
right.
that all people, and I'm sure you probably heard that more than just from doctors,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
you know, throughout your life. But you said you felt the calling into a youth pastor. Clearly, you have your own ministry, so you're clearly in the ministry. Uh,
Right.
what did w- I guess I don't know, getting called into ministry and going into ministry? What did that look like?
Yeah, well, it took me 4 years to finally finish up, community college. And even in the beginning, that was rough. And I even had a discussion again with my mom about, should I continue with this? Should I quit? What should I do? And she basically said, take it a few more weeks and we'll, we'll figure this out. And I finally found out that they had a Chaos for Christian club on that campus. And it wasn't perfect afterwards, obviously. It was still rough at times with, schooling and testing and whatnot. But it was that group of people, it was that group of men and women that helped me and that encouraged me to, stay the route and to just be there and just to persevere in what it was that God had for me.
Mm.
And then after community college, I started to attend what is now the University of Valley Forge here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And in 2002, my mom passed away on
Mm.
December 7th, 2002. She passed away. But I knew that my mom wouldn't have wanted me to. I knew that she wouldn't have wanted me to quit. I knew that she wouldn't have wanted me to give up. And again, I continued to persevere. And again, Bible college wasn't easy for me. I had people telling me, hey, why don't you at least get your associate's degree? I mean, that way, at least if you don't make it, you'll have at least something to fall back on. And I did. I got another associate's degree in liberal arts from the Bible College. And on May 2005, I was able to cross the stage to receive my Bachelor's of Arts degree in youth ministry.
Nice. And, yeah, that's powerful. It sounds like, um, from what you've told me, that the church and Christians played a humongous role in, what can I say, being Jesus to you and helping to equip you, to propel you further on into what God wanted, clearly has called you to do, which is what you're doing right now.
Right,
So I like to hear that. That's really great because I think people need to, people out there need to hear, like, wow, I mean, me, a Christian, can play a big role positively in somebody's life, regardless of, if they have disabilities, or not. But clearly, God put everybody on this earth for a purpose. And I
yeah,
think I think it's important for people out there to know that, hey, that they can have a big role in that, and helping people. Just, they don't have to be trained up. They don't, not just being a Christian, to people in every day of their life.
right.
And so I'm glad to hear that. So, uh, why don't you tell us, Dan, about your ministry? What is that all about?
Yeah, well, I wanted, as I said, I wanted to be a youth pastor, but the doors for that kept on closing.
Hmm.
And I went on interview after interview, several times, and I even had, the one pastor tell me, "Hey, we're not going to look at your disability. We'll just look at your resume and your experience, and we'll see what happens. And if basically if we're interested, we'll call you back. But I never got a call back from any of the cookies that were looking for a youth pastor that I went on an interview for. And in the summer of 2006, I was given a opportunity to share my story about my life, about what God's done in my life at a outreach event. And during that time, I started to play. I was continuing playing, but I was playing again about what God had for me. And he just said, send this out. I put together a packet of information and a video that I had made of my story. Send it out and to different churches basically, and see what I will do with it. So in August of excuse me, in February 2007, I just started to make a lot of cold calls
Hmm.
to pastors and to churches, asking them if I can come and speak and share my story about what God has done in my life. And I've been doing that now basically for the last 15 years.
Hmm. Wow. That's awesome. I guess what impact has that had on people? Would you
Oh,
be able to share a story to them?
yeah, I mean, it's been a lot. People have, had a lot of big impact on it, I believe. And people, just amazed at what, God has done in my life and what, like you said earlier, what God can do in their life as well. I think sometimes people forget that, regardless of who we are and regardless of, where we are, God can use us.
Right.
And I think that's part of what my story is. And, you know, if God can use me, God can use anybody.
Absolutely. Hey, if we could use this guy right here, who was trapped in PTSD for 15 years and, you know, getting drunk at, crawling into a bottle and, even worse, then yeah, absolutely. And I just want, I think we were all born with a disability, by the way. It's called,
Yeah,
it's called sin, you
right.
know, sin. And we were all born with that, right? With the inability to understand anything about God, without an ability to comprehend or even accept or even love God or even accept His love. We were all born with that,
Yeah,
and so just because somebody has a physical disability or it might be coupled with physical and say autism or something, doesn't make any person lesser than or lesser unable to do what God called them to do. It just
right.
means, that's what they have, and God can use anybody in that to give to testify about the power of Jesus in people's lives. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
And so that's what you do, right? You're all about helping to get your story out there. And what else is your ministry about?
I mean, I do a podcast now. I have a podcast show where I bring people on and have them share, their stories and what they have gone through in their life. It's just a lot of encouragement.
Hmm.
I just love to encourage people and empower people that, with God, all things are possible.
Right. I mean, you're a living example, right? You're not, not that I'm trying, show disrespect or, downgrade anybody, but I'm saying it's easier to do that when your life is going well. Right. It's,
Yeah,
it's, 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 it's easy to do that when everything is, you got the health, you got this, tick off any checkbox, you can think of I mean, it's still great to tell people that, but I think sometimes it's more effective when we live in a certain way, whether it's disability of some kind. I live with disabilities. I don't people I don't. I got a brain injury from Iraq. My third deployment. I got all sorts of physical stuff from that too as well. Um, but hey, I believe that, that things like that, not that saying God doesn't heal, but but still in that time frame, in that way that we are, we can provide, I think, an even greater testimony as to the power of God to work through anybody and use anybody in any situation.
Right.
So yeah, so what do you think that a main message, perhaps, that God is trying to get across to people about, Him, you know, being able to work through them and use them?
I think it would depend, on the person's story and on the person's situation. I think each person's unique when it comes to that. I think we each have our own personal story of how God can use us.
Right, but yeah, I guess it's clear that God can use anybody. I don't think a lot of people can comprehend that, and sometimes they look more at themselves and perhaps what's wrong, rather than looking to God, looking to Jesus, saying, "Wait a minute here, He's done all the work for me, man. I gotta accept it, and I gotta walk it out now." And no, walking out is not always easy, but basically, he can do that kind of thing for us. Um, sure that would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Now it says here that you actually wrote a book. What's
I
that
did.
about? What's
Yeah, I
that
wrote I
about?
wrote a book called Overcomer,
Uh huh.
and it's my autobiography about
Nice.
my life. And a second edition came out, in 2020. A second edition came out, and it's just a expanded edition of the first one, really.
Okay.
And you can find it, on my website at www.dorseyrossministries.com, or you can find it on Amazon as well. But the little, blog, I guess, is if you buy it on my website, you can get a autograph copy of it from me as well.
Nice. Nice. So let's see. I like this question you put on your little thing here. It said, "What's the highlight of your life so far? Then up to this point, what's the highlight?"
The highlight, I guess, would be just traveling around and being able to see the country and being able to see you know and being able to meet new people, new interesting people.
Nice. And so you've traveled around quite a bit, around the country quite a bit. Then
I have, yeah,
nice.
mostly on the Northeast, but I've gone out west as well. I've been to California, Las Vegas, um, Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee.
Okay.
So I've been to
Nice.
about 20 states, I guess, so far.
Have you been to my home state? Now I'm in Texas, but I'm from Connecticut. You been up there?
Where, Connecticut?
Yeah.
Yes, I have been to Connecticut.
Oh, okay. Nice. 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 Yeah, I live kind of live a bit far from there now, but that's the life of being in the army when I was traveling around. It's like, okay,
Right.
well, here I am now. Yeah. So I'm just like totally, I don't know what the word for it is, stoked, excited, just to hear your story and hear, how a person is willing to overcome. Highlights for me was your parents, for one, right? Your
Right.
parents playing this humongous role in your life, and they're like, oh well, we don't know if you can do it or not. It sounds like your parents never assumed what you couldn't do. That's what.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, and
No, they never assumed that. They never, doubted what I could and could not do.
I think for me that's a highlight. That is a highlight. Um, it is it's amazing, and then also the role that you know different Christians being Christians, as we should be. played a huge role as well.
Right.
You talked about how the church and the youth group and all, and that, and then later on going to community college, finding a Christian group there that really helped you. And I love seeing the church be the church.
Yeah.
Getting outside the four walls and actually being the church, um, just out there and about there, showing off, doing what Jesus would have done.
Right.
Because Jesus didn't turn people. He certainly wasn't afraid of somebody who might have had a disability. And in fact, he went right up to him. He was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're blind? Here, spit in the hand, put some mud in the eye, or whatever, or however he decided to do it. He was just out there, do he wasn't afraid, basically. I mean, he lived in
Right.
it, he lived in it. This just highlights me the story in the Bible where the lepers are around, right?
Yeah.
And they come up to him. Back in the, according to Jewish law, you couldn't even touch a leper, and
Right.
lepers were not even allowed to cut. They couldn't be within a certain distance of a city. And here we have Jesus, though, not only near them, but he touches them as well. He's not afraid of that, and I think we need to be the same. In our daily lives, as much as possible. Obviously, as you said, people are unique. So people are unique, obviously. So obviously, in it, we all have a unique way about doing things. Yeah, you talked about that. Just really highlight this whole unique thing. I think a lot of times in the church we get caught up like you got to do it my way. You got to go out and evangelize my way. Whether it's my way of knocking on doors, that's my way, or something else. But you evangelize clearly. So what about this individuality of and I know we're all children of God, but what about that? How do you see that playing a big role?
As far as what goes, I'm sorry.
Oh no, and being the individuality, you highlighted that. Well, each person is different, so that means God, and you evangelize also. So have you seen, like, just in the term of the Christian walk, doing what we're called to do, individually? How have you seen that, I guess, play out in a positive role? I don't know
Hmm.
if you got the question.
I got the question, but I'm not. I'm trying. I'm just trying to figure out, the answer in my head right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in other words, God has a calling for each of us, right? We're all
Right.
different. We're all different people. We're all speak different. We have different likes, but it comes into play. In other words, when we in our walk with God. So and I'm sure you've seen stuff about that. Like this person does this over here, or that person does that, or this person may have this disability which differs from that one.
Yeah.
But it's all okay because God has an individual purpose, the same
Right. For
purpose
each of us.
overall. Yeah. That's what I guess that's what I'm trying to highlight to people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we're all on. We're all on. We're all on the same. You know. We're all Christians, but we're all on a different path and different walk. But we're all going towards the same goal of reaching people and find doing what it is that God has for us to do.
right, right, exactly, exactly. That's what I was trying to get at. Exactly, the whole Paul wrote that. The hand can't say to the foot, "I don't need you," and all that. So it's obviously the hand and the foot are two completely different things, or two different functions, but one body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Um, I got to say, I appreciate you coming on the show. I really do. It's been a blessing, and I believe that this is gonna bless a lot of people out there. I truly do.
Amen.
I hope also it gets to highlight that don't look at somebody's disability. Don't do that. Just look at what God is able to do.
Yeah.
And don't tell a person what they can't do if they haven't tried it yet.
Right.
You know. So why don't you highlight then? Go ahead and shamelessly plug yourself and How do people reach you? Well, I know you said you had a website, but social media and all that. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, if you go on my website, you can find all my social media. Instagram, which is Dorsey.Ross. Um, Facebook again, this is Dorsey Ross, and on there you can type in Dorsey Ross, you'll find all my Facebook pages and my personal page and everything is all on there. Well,
All
and
right.
if somebody out there and listening, a pastor, whatnot, that wants me to come and speak, my there's a booking page on my first page on my website. There's a booking page on there, and if you have a home search or whatever, if you want to just have me on a video shot as well, you can do that. Do that as well. Have a Zoom call.
That's right. That's what we're doing here, right? It's a
Yeah,
house church, so and having you on video for this, which has been awesome. So all the links to those things will be in the description. It's part of the show notes, so all you out there can check it out. So please, I urge you, go check it out, please. Please check out Dorsey over here, man. Trust me, I enjoyed this conversation. I hope you did too. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Restoring Your Voice. Um, be blessed out there. Don't forget, like I said, don't forget to share this. Please get it out. With that, talk to y'all later. Bye for now.